Welcome back to the Insider Knowledge podcast. I'm Akedo. Below me or above me, I guess, are Drizoth and BaJAtak. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about today. Big patch, lots of balance changes. Is bloodbait the most broken card in the game?
Of course.
Stay tuned and find out. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Had a good time. I'm
Yeah.
happy with the patch. I don't know if anybody else on this podcast is going to be happy, but I like the patch.
I'm not that happy, but I'm fine. I'm looking forward. I'm still I know the meta's gonna be good, I think. Like my issues more with the patch, not like with the meta, because I think meta will be exciting. So it's gonna be cool decks again. So I'm down to play Janna again, so I love Janna.
Yeah, I'm a little bit sus on the lack of overall Janna nerfs, but I think it'll probably be okay. I don't know. I think a lot of people are overreacting to only seeing Exalted Cloudwinder as a nerf to Janna, and I don't know, maybe Samira if you're not talking specifically Janna and Isla. But I feel like Janna, unlike many other strong decks, the deck clearly had problems that it just kind of accepted and dealt with. And so I think if people wanted to beat Janna, they could really focus in on those issues, because it's the deck did have this problem of failing to convincingly end games. It just threw cards at you, and usually that got the job done. But if you were really adamant and playing SI control and have eradications and soul harvest, I had a really hard time just killing you. So
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think that I'm definitely not upset with a lot of the nerf targets. I think that right, obviously they knew it was strong. And they
mhm.
threw an awful lot of nerfs at things that were strong. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to give spoilers. Janna, I think that Janna is probably going to be good. That said, I think there's a lot of Janna counters waiting in the wings. I think there are a lot of Janna counters that are being gate kept by other things in the meta. And even if you look at it and you're like, hey, you know what? There's only one Janna nerf. I think that I think there's gonna be some decks that come up that make you sad that you're playing Janna.
Yeah.
Janna's still gonna be good, but yeah.
I mean, admittedly,
Janna's beatable.
if you ended up in a situation where you're I need to beat Janna, we can't just ramp into She Who Wanders on turn 6. And that will be Janna.
I'll be honest with you, early days of patch, I don't think I know back when people were playing like Volibear, right? That wasn't
Mhm.
really like beating Janna. Because what would happen is they shoe wanders, and then you draw 6 cards. And then you kill them anyway because they spent mana on it, 10 mana, 10/10. But
Well, I do
yeah.
think early on in patch, people were just sitting there and being like, Bear in that deck. And it's just play She Who Wanders.
Yeah,
Let's play Shoe Wonders. That was a card I wanted nerfed.
I mean,
I would like for this ramp sigil archetype to be out from underneath the shadow of this stupid fucking card.
I
I don't know if somebody enjoys playing Shoe Wonders or enjoys playing against Shoe Wonders, but I'm woo baby.
I do think She Who Wanders is one of the least interesting cards in the game, because you kind of just play it and you cross your fingers that it wins the game, because if that card doesn't win the game, it definitely lost you the game. But
yeah,
it wins the game enough that it's worth playing. So
yeah. These
Yeah.
parent haters, man. Can they have one good card? I gotta, man.
Failure cheese.
I saw both of your stream yesterday, man. It was so funny how you were so angry about Pharaoh, but I guess we're gonna touch on it. I guess we can
I
look at the changes. Oh,
Yeah, I was mauling, dude. Here's what I'll say, okay? I'm usually the relentless optimist, you know that? So I'm so glad that other people really like this patch. Because I think the patch is fine. I just think it's very likely that we're falling back into a meta of Warden and Jaxorn. I don't see a world where Jaxorn isn't like the fucking best deck in the fucking game. It
uh,
got buffed. How did this 58% win rate
hey,
deck get buffed?
I I will accept a take that Jack Sorn got essentially no changes. However, they did actually nerf the innovative blacksmith, and that is definitely
Yeah,
bigger than
which
Omen Hawk.
is a cool nerf. I disagree wholeheartedly because I think that the decks that were beating Jaxorn, like this elusive shit deck that was beating up on Freljord decks, none of these elusive decks were actually good. They were just abusing Freljord being like the main focus of the meta. Guess what? You were already running triple Omen Hawk, And now Omen Hawk just fucks over these elusive decks hardcore.
Also with Wildfire, right? That's something we're gonna be talking about. But I do agree with Jackson. I don't agree with you with Warden, but I guess when we're gonna get to Warden, we can talk about it.
Do I start
Yeah.
with do I go down to
We-
nerfs?
Sure. I think the nerfs are like probably worth all talking about specifically.
Yeah, so let's
It
open
looks like the
patch notes, yeah.
official thing is just missing at least Innovative Blacksmith. So
Yeah.
I guess we can scroll through. Balen the Benevolent. I don't think anybody. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this because Formidable kind of just fell by the wayside with the existence of Warden, where it was just like, oh, I'm playing Demacia Freljord. I'm not playing Formidable. But I do think Formidable was a pretty reasonable to target for nerfs. It was completely overshadowed by Warden, so I don't think many people were thinking about it.
I think it's super reasonable. There were a couple nerfs like this that were, aimed at like decks that are going to be coming up after like Warden dies. I think that Balen is one of those changes. Forbidden Idol is the other one. I think that these are relatively light changes. This is a good Balen nerf. Because like you can trade into it on turn 4 a lot more consistently. So it might not have like multiple swings. Like I'm a big fan of this nerf. It probably doesn't change that much for Balen. Sky Splitter's still a broken card.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Like, I think issue of this Balen card was especially very often to like attack on the turn 4, especially like in mid-edge matchup where opponent didn't have like way how to interact with you. You attack on the turn 4, and then I don't know, Balen had like 1 health, and thanks to that, he was able to pull out another attack right and just snowball the game out of the way. And I think this is like making it like it's a nerf that you're gonna notice in some games. Is Galio still gonna be good? Definitely. Like
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was like interested in with Sigil of the Storm that I think will probably come back into focus is you can use sigils to ramp out a Naka because he has 8 health. And like if you were playing like Galio and a Naka as your entire Titanic things, I think you could probably make a deck work, and like that definitely sounds like it's formidable. So I think we'll probably see some more formidables, but probably not to the level of Warden.
Yeah. I think it's definitely playable. Scraptrap and
We should probably talk
Hextech
about these
Handler,
as a
huh?
unit.
Yeah, I mean Heimer Jace got taken out back.
Yeah,
right?
I'm happy.
Is
I've
there
been wanting
any
this.
world where this is like a playable deck?
I think it is, but not like you got Hunter. Hunter is unplayable card. Like stop pretending like Hunter is unplayable card. This card got unprinted right now. Like
Yeah,
Handler's unplayable. I think Scraptraption is like pretty unplayable too. I think we're back to playing assembly line. Like I don't know how you play this card.
I would just play a side counter, especially without handler. What does production surge do, right? Like
I would be much more interested in trying to salvage Heimer Jace and just drop Heimer and go like
So just play
something like
Sentinels or
Sentinels, where like we've had these like definitely second fiddle Jace decks or like Jace Lux, but that's only an Eternal. Where like we've shown that this kind of deck could exist without Heimer, but it's never been justifiable. And I'd be much more interested in being like, okay, fuck Heimer. I don't care about turrets anymore.
right? Or something like that. Jace Cosmical, something like that can be definitely thingy.
I always felt like these decks like were very interested in applying early pressure. So Cosmic Call just sounds like control copium to me, but
I'll be honest. I feel like one of like the big reasons to be playing Heimer Jace is because of Shadow Owls. It's because if you look at any thread or anybody talking about patching, it's like, oh, Forbidden Idol, that's a 0/4. You know what you could do? You could Quietus that. You could Soul Harvest this. You can Quietus this. You can Vengeance this. You could Soul Harvest this. Everyone talks about SI cards. There are no SI decks that are playable, especially with Jace Heimer taking a fucking fat L. So like, if we do end up trying to salvage this deck, I think we're still gonna be an SI because we just want to be playing SI spells because SI spells are really fucking good.
I certainly believe it could still be SI. I just think like there's a reasonable chance that Heimer gets dropped.
Yeah, maybe. To be fair, Heimer didn't give a fuck about Scraptraption, right? Heimer only liked
Scraptraption,
Handler.
not so much. Handler, yeah.
Yeah, like Heimer still does the thing here, right? Like, of course, like the turret's now gonna like I don't know to fight those do some like do 1 damage or something. Like, sure, but I think maybe you could still play just Heimer and just be like, okay, I'm just gonna still having the engine on the bird, and I'm just gonna be chilling. Like it can be just like completely like more different take on the hammer chase without no production search. Maybe still scrap that because still like some presence on bird. I wouldn't be surprised if we still play it.
I think it's
Uh,
assembly line. I think assembly line was a good card before. And that like went from like a one or two of in the deck to like Scraptraption is just better.
oh, you mean
So I think we
oh yeah, yeah.
so I think we end up going back to that. Maybe you run like one Scraptraption. The thing is that the Scraptraption card like it already was like trading into like 2 units, right? And you spend all your mana for it, and now it like doesn't apply any pressure because it could just get trumped out forever. This card is really unplayable, I think.
I would not. I if I was interested in trying to salvage this deck, I would drop every card that's a tech. Timer,
Yeah.
every card that produces text, just ignore them. Play assembly lines. Assembly lines sound fine. What's the like Forge of Tomorrow, the landmark that gives you a refund at some point? Like going more to
That
this like
card would be
3/3
better
package.
if like Formula didn't already do it. The amount of times that I see people
Yeah.
Formula on their Forge, and it's like, oh well, you did nothing here, buddy.
Formula specifically is rough with it, but I think you're gonna work around that some, but I do think you're gonna just drop all of this tech nonsense and just play Sentinels if the deck lives.
I think the PNZSI deck, like, that I'd be more interested in seeing this patch is just gonna be Seraphine. I
Sure.
think that there wasn't a reason for Seraphine to, like, be a deck, like the SI deck, because, like, Jace was just gonna be better most of the time. With this nerf, I think that when we're looking for our SI fix, I think it's pretty likely that that's where we're gonna end up, at least early patch.
The deck won EU Open even, so like I guess it was not bad.
Uh,
The deck was pretty bad, but it won EU Open, so
yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Jaceheimer, I'll say I've been an ardent defender of Jaceheimer. I think that this deck has been pretty fair. I think that it was very abusable. I think that it was one of the more interesting meta staples because of how abusable it was. And I think a lot of people, I've heard people talk about playing against it. I think a lot of people did not think past, just watch them play their stuff and I'm going to play my stuff. So they feel like it was a flowchart. I don't think that was the case.
I really wanted to move on from Jaceheimer, so I'm happy to just be done with it. I would have been more agreeable to your take if this is like one of the more enjoyable decks, but ever since Scraptraption happened, I felt like every game that I played with Heimer Jace, I was just trying to do bot beatdown. I was just hardcore mulliganing. I would refuse to not play 3 Scraptraption, 3 Production Surge. I was just every game I was trying to get the bot beatdown hands. And like I know you agree that the bot beatdown is the most miserable part of Heimer Jace, and since Scraptraption, I was just like, that is all I want to be doing. I never want to be playing SI control with this deck. I just want to be beating down with bots.
Yeah. I feel you. I'm totally fine with people saying it. They just don't want to see Hammer Jace anymore. I just hope that they bring a similar
Yeah.
a similar attitude to a lot of other decks in the meta. Like Jax Orn that's been at the top of the meta for the last 6 months, or Echo Jinx that comes back, every single meta for the last like 2 years. I think that there's a lot of these decks that I hope they bring the same fucking energy because it feels like Hyper Jace got targeted.
Okay. On the Echo Jinx though, like that deck doesn't exist on ladder, so I don't think that will happen.
I agree with you. Hyper Jace wasn't existing that much on ladder either. A lot of these decks don't hit ladder; they take over tournaments. Like, yeah.
I would like to see just kind of. I mean, rotation was supposed to do that, where it just kind of like moves stuff along and gets us more variety. And then, like, because they didn't rotate new cards because they wanted like people to have safe stuff going on, it was just like we just like went from Aatrox Vayne to Aatrox Vayne. It was like this deck didn't lose a single card. Are you kidding me? So
yeah, it was definitely weird on the thingy. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Guess we can go on.
I think it's fine overall. This was a 50% win rate deck that just got gutted, but it's fine if it's just like it's been around too long. I just hope we bring the same energy for other decks. That's all.
I can agree with that. I mean, this is just them saying like Cobra combo isn't supposed to exist, right? Because like it's not like Cobra was doing anything else, and it's not like this lets Cobra combo survive.
But they said Chip is not lame, and now he's lame. I don't know.
Chip is very lame now. Chip is very lame now. I feel lied to, Walrus.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know, like especially I guess we can cover what is the landmark nerf. I guess if you're gonna find it like the format thingy. It's so weird to like nerf the landmark as well, like the Cobra. I think like
So
the Cobra wasn't ever that
I
good.
think it's two
this-
different
yeah.
aims, right? They want to kill the Cobra combo. They said Cobra combo is a little bit toxic, and sure. And then the other thing that they wanted to do was kill Nidalee. And I think that this kills Nidalee. Nidalee's like mana points were so fucking tight. Their curves were so tight. How do you play Nidalee with a 4-mana Valley of Imitation?
You cannot like
I
the thing
think
was
you-
Balen
so-
into knock attack.
I think you could play Nidalee, but it involves not playing Valley of Imitation. And
Yeah.
I'll also tell you that I'm a little bit dubious about Nidalee without Valley of Imitation, but I think you could.
we
You're just
saw
not playing
her.
Valley.
We saw
Um,
Nidalee without Valley, right? We saw that before.
I mean,
Quacko's been playing that, right?
People
He's been
play
playing
Nidalee.
You mean? Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here and say I have a high opinion of Nidalee, but
Overall, I thought that the Cobra thing was funny. I think it was kind of cool. I don't know. I felt like it was a pretty harmless deck. Like it never like did too much, but I'm fine with it getting a nerf. It is
This
annoying.
complicated is the card though, like because you cannot use it with the Vasta, right? Anymore, because that was also a cool combo that you give like the elusive and stuff. Yeah, it's just like the deck is like the card is completely gone, I would say.
yeah, I mean, I have a hard time seeing. So Cobra was like interesting. There was some attempt to make fair Cobra decks, and they just never panned out. And the unfair Cobra deck we just got told isn't allowed to exist. So now I'm kind of sitting there being like, what are we supposed to do with Cobra? You got to throw some buffs at this card at this point, because we tried the fair stuff, and that one wasn't good. So
I remember that when people were coping on what was it, condensed Cobra? That was...
yeah. Well, even condensed Cobra was like abusing the same thing that this kills. So like all of a sudden we're like copying Combat Cook with Cobra, and it's like
Combat Cook's broken, man. Maybe that's the strat. Maybe that's the strat.
Nerf Combat Cook, bro.
Swindle. I'll be honest with you. I think that this Swindle nerf, so it only sees 2 cards instead of 3 cards. I think that this was like super reasonable. I think Swindle is really strong.
yeah.
If they didn't gut another card in this deck, spoiler alert, Samira got fucking gutted.
I have Counterpart and Swindle. Nobody was playing Swindle and Samira even. The monkey version that was having the biggest win rate and the biggest play rate wasn't playing Swindle, so
okay. We don't get to talk about win rate and play rates of specific versions when like no one was playing Fizz Samira.
Simon was telling me that the deck is amazing, so
I mean,
I knew
that's
about it.
fine. I can sit here and say that like Simon thought the deck was amazing, but like it's not versions because you've got like 80 games total and 40 of them are from Simon, and so it's like, yeah, the one that's all Simon and not random other people, that one's gonna have the high win rate. He could probably put some sunk costs in there and have it as the high win rate.
But this version, this nerf is just weird to me, especially with the summer. I don't definitely agree. I guess we can just move on like this.
It is a little bizarre, but I mean, I think it's fine. But a bit weird.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's hard to talk about Swindle without Samira, but you know, Swindle nerf is fine. Samira is I think that we've talked a lot of times before. How do you nerf this card without killing it? I think Riot said, "Fuck it, let's kill it." Am I crazy?
I think they were like they nerfed it already 2 times or like how many times, and they were like, "Okay, we cannot miss again. We need to kill it." And
I mean,
I think it makes sense eternal-wise. I don't think it makes standard-wise. Like,
I mean, I don't know. I get that like Samira was having like kind of an off season, but like she wasn't even bad this season, and like she has spent so many metas as the best champion. And it's like she wasn't having an incredible season, sure. But like saying that like Samira couldn't justify a nerf, I think is insane. This is pretty harsh. I think it's going to be very difficult. Do you think
this is a playable card?
Yeah. I would say it's playable. It's not the Samira that you used to see. You can't use it for bird control in the early game. you have to be doing like Akshan Samira and trying to do something stupid later in the game with her.
You also can't like play her in the plunder package, right? Because you've like
Yeah.
destroyed the entire curve there.
Yeah, you cannot do just standard plunder stuff.
And also, I don't think even it's with action because you cannot stack flares. Like the good thing on action was that you, I don't know, you had like 4 flares, and then you like thanks to that rally, pop the action like and stuff.
I mean, it's a
Like,
gigantic nerf. I'm not gonna sit here and say that like
I don't think the mana. I don't think the mana is that big as that you're not able to have multiple flares on level 2. Like that's something that I even mind more in my opinion. Maybe
for Akshan, but I feel like for every deck other than Akshan, like if you had Samira 2 and were stacking flares, your opponent was like giga fucked. So
I think
I get that
the
action.
I think that if Samira survives, the only thing she survives in is like I don't know, like random control piles where she just like exists as a side piece, and like sometimes she's gonna be Diana. But you know, she's like giving you a spell and she has quick attack and like I don't
Maybe
know.
Scarfina?
I am gonna have
Like,
to. I will agree that like every single change to Samira has made her less interesting. It's like this champion is like slipping down from like original Samira was broken to hell and back, but like she was broken in everything. You could play aggro, you could play control, you could play mid range, you could do whatever the hell you wanted with Samira. And now it's like she's becoming more and more constrained to a smaller and smaller collection of decks, and she's getting less and less interesting. And so
yeah,
like
I cannot see her outside of surfing. I think only way how to make her playable is now surfing, that you're gonna make some stupid rally turns, right? Like that's the still thingy that's you're still able to do. But
And
that's one thing.
like I look at this and I think that I like Samira a lot, right? I like Samira. If we look at the decks that she's being played in this patch, it's like Wildfire, which I mean isn't a deck anymore, and she was like very much not the focus there. The Janna deck no one plays. The Fizz decks that no one's playing and has a 50% win rate, and then Seraphine Samira, which is the 4LW pile, which has a 47% win rate. Like she's not in decks.
Actually, I just checked. This summer has 58% win rate in 300 matches.
It's how much?
58.
I want you to
But
tell me
nobody
how many
plays the
games.
game, so
It's 50.6. I have a screenshot from yesterday. What do you mean?
it's still there. It got,
58?
yes, because nobody. It's like 400 players on matches.
Sausage. Yeah, I see a 50% win rate, but yeah, either way, I'm looking at it and I don't know. If they told me that this was like, oh, Samira was too broken in Eternal, I'd be like, okay, sure, but like we should probably wait, a month. I don't think that she's that crazy in standard. And I think that this is just like,
I mean,
this is not a playable card.
I like kind of agree that she wasn't that crazy in standard, but like this is the only season that Samira hasn't been like at least one of the top 3. So it's like I do kind of agree that like this was a weak showing for Samira, and it's bizarre she got nerfed now of all seasons. But like I don't think it's unreasonable to be like, well, we just constantly see Samira show up. I just assume this season was a fluke. But
yeah, maybe
this champion is much less of like exciting, a champion that you're like going out of your way to play. It's now just like, I guess maybe like, I mean, Wildfire's dead for other reasons, but maybe a deck like Wildfire would play it where it's like, I need spells in my aggressive deck for some strange reason. But
Wildfire would probably play it. But like, I mean, that's the least synergistic, least fun. Like, she's fucking, I don't even know, demolitionist or saboteur. She's a saboteur now. Quick attack sabo. Yeah. Pyke, huh? Lurk.
Lurk. Most broken deck, right?
I will say I find it very bizarre. So first of all, I actually don't think this does much to Lurk. Because
I think this just really feels bad for Lurk players.
It feels
really bad. And
you know what?
Normal Pyke,
you know what? I'm here for that. They should feel bad.
But okay. So Pyke is now 5 cost. His spell is also 5 cost. How many? I mean, here's the real question. Day 1 of patch, every single time there's an asshole to Lurk. How many different players do you think are going to realize mid game that their card got nerfed?
Oh, quite a few. Okay, hold on.
Tons. It has to be tons.
And there's gonna be a Reddit post, bro. There's gonna be somebody. Why is my Pyke 5 mana? And I'm like,
yeah,
it has to be.
What is Seabass's Twitter? Oh, there.
He's right there. Yeah.
Going on Twitter during streaming is kind of dangerous. There's a
It
I
is
don't
very dangerous,
follow
though.
sus stuff. So lurk players post patch when being interrogated about why they're still queuing it up. I didn't even read the patch notes. No matter what they nerf, all I need to do is hit, and I will win. And I will hit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like
Phenomenal.
fundamentally doesn't change lurk, right? Like,
Yeah, I
I-
think it literally will not change their win rate.
Like,
I mean,
it
it's just
will later, right?
They'll
But,
like that tweet. That tweet is a banger.
but yeah, it won't change that much. It's so weird to me that the unit cost also 5 mana. I think the spell if it was only 5
Yeah.
mana, that would be like more like reasonable. Like
Uh,
like feel bad. Like draw just Pyke normally would be so bad. Like now, unless you of course can shuffle it back into a deck. But
yeah, it
it
is
is
already
funny to me.
depressing to play Pyke for 4 mana, and now Pyke is 5.
Almost certainly they made the Pyke change. Like, they made like base Pyke 5 mana because they're like, oh, you don't want it so that when you lurk him, he costs more mana. That would be weird. It'd be weird for him to cost more mana. So let's just nerf his base. That'll feel less bad. And like
Yeah.
unironically, it might feel less bad. But fuck me, yeah, I don't know. The thing is that lurk is still gonna fucking win when it gets token on odds. Like it's fucking 1-drop spam hands are still really hard to deal with. And yeah, that's like it fundamentally doesn't change much, but I mean, hey, it's a fuck you to lurk players, so maybe it's great.
Yeah.
We have a lot of luck, but we know that, like, once again, this competitive players are taking some time off because, there's nothing to compete for. There's not the open, we don't have meta for open. And luck is the second most played deck. Like, like, people like luck. And
God help them.
gotta help them, exactly.
Okay. Exalted Cloudwinder. Spoiler alert, I think the only Janna nerf in the patch.
Mhm.
Yeah. It
I mean-
it is a nerf from 3-2 to 2-2.
I do think this is the best card in Janna. So
Yes.
I was happy to see that this was the one they nerfed, but I do think the nerfs are overall pretty minor to Janna. The one thing that I would say is like preventing me from being like, oh, Janna's going to be tier 0, it's going to be the best deck, is that I think if you wanted to be Janna, it was already possible. It's just
Yeah, I
that
agree
wasn't
with
a justifiable decision.
I think my thinking with I don't like this change myself. I made my like dream change of making it no quick attack. I think the quick attack is so weird because like how many units with quick attack Janna has, especially with combination with the
Yeah.
4 mana spell. It's so weird. And also, I would love, for example, this being bird, so you can play it maybe in, something like Nico. That'd be also maybe cool. But I guess this change makes sense, kinda. The 1 damage gonna matter, by the way. Like this is not like this change doesn't matter because sometimes you're gonna push one does damage, and we know how Janna often like finds the burn, So like the 1 damage just might decide the games, but
And like this
Yeah.
card definitely is going to be able to attack less. Like it is still coming down on turn 5. Like that hasn't changed anything. Yeah, I think this is like a reasonable nerf for everyone who's saying that Janna got away without like any real nerfs. I very much maybe I'm wrong, but I think that in a couple days we're gonna realize that there's a lot of decks, Aatrox, Alawi, Jaxorn. There's a lot of decks that are around that really beat the shit out of Janna. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the patch note contains sufficient nerfs for Janna, but I do think Janna will be reined in by other decks doing stuff.
But the meta will be to once again around the Janna, right? Is gonna be first I would assume that we're gonna have Janna instantly popping up with Timo or Janna Nyla, be like the most dominant deck, and then we're gonna adapt to it like slowly of it the thing. And yeah, it's beatable deck. It was even this open. But I still like Janna. Still think that the deck is maybe too good. It's just stealing so many games. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll
if there were
see.
if there were harsher nerfs thrown at Janna, I don't think I would particularly complain. But I don't think this is an egregious situation. I think a lot of people are just like flipping out, being like, "How did they not nerf Janna?" And it's like, I mean, they probably could have thrown some more nerfs at Janna, but I don't think
The
it's
Omen
gonna...
Hawk changes a fucking Janna nerf. Like,
That's
Yeah.
good point.
like I don't think the Demacia version's like playable anymore. Like, wasn't the point of the Demacia version to like acorn people and then like end up rallying on them and like that's how you beat Warden?
You're right,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
But we buff Janna with cold shot buff, so you know.
True. That's gonna be the play. That's gonna be the buff that comes through. Yeah. Warden of the Tribes. 8 cost
Rest.
and 9 cost.
I do think this probably puts the card back to not being particularly good.
Yeah.
I know I and Scathis tried it. Like, Scathis was trying it before the buff was even announced. And I was like, oh, I'll try this when the buff gets announced because I don't want to wait for the next day for the patch to hit. 9 cost Warden is not as bad as people think, but I don't think it's competitive. It's just like, you are allowed to play it, but if you're trying to find good decks, it's not actually good.
I mean, one thing I'll say is like I think that, obviously you've shown pretty well that Warden's able to play a bunch of really good fucking cards in this deck and then like doesn't necessarily need Warden to end every game. Warden obviously was very fucking good. And like it coming down a turn later, like giving an extra turn to like Janna or like some of these Seraphim piles, like it might end up making a difference. But you're still running a lot of really good fucking cards that like didn't really get nerfs.
Yeah.
And I think more importantly, if you take a peek, I don't know if you saw my tweet, every single one of the of their bad matchups in the top 20 most played,
Oh yeah.
all 8
I'll pull it
fat
up.
fucking nerfs. Every single one of their bad matchups in the top 20 most played. There's no X.
I get him.
Yeah.
We are
do
doing
X's
very,
in
very
some
dangerous things.
social media and not here, but
Literally every single one ate a fucking nerf.
Okay.
So it's like
yeah.
I get Shakeado, but like you have to be thinking that the good matchups are getting worse. For example, Galio. Imagine Galio, okay? You have Galio turn 7, you have only 1 attack, then opponent played the Warden. Now with Galio, you can turn 7 attack, turn 8 you play like CS, and turn 9 you can open attack. You have 2 more basically
I'm not
2 more
gonna
attack.
I'm not gonna sit here
Before
and
they
say
play
that
one Warden, right? Like
the nerf definitely matters, right? But I think that it matters less when we see that all of their fucking predators got taken out.
I get you, but it's the same with like Jackson on getting 2 attacks. It's the same with Atox. Even Atox that should be
Jackson's
good
pretty
matchup, but
broken.
now is getting Darkened played with maybe like Tumbles, right? Like
Potentially.
I
think
think
there's more
Warden's
time
going
to
much
beat
worse.
the deck, right? But I would be very surprised if this is like below tier 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being like near tier 1.
I think it's below tier 2. I think like you definitely underestimate the difference between 8 and 9 mana that we saw multiple times in the past. We saw these differences, how much they mattered with multiple cards.
I think it probably depends on like what you exactly count as the same deck, because I would have doubts that a triple Warden Demacia Freljord deck is going to be particularly good. But I would not be surprised if like the shell lived on, and it's like maybe playing 2 Wardens, maybe it's still playing 3 Wardens, but maybe it's looking elsewhere for a finisher or something. But it's like clearly the Warden deck in Spirit,
maybe.
where it's like this mid-range deck fueled by Saurian, Glacial Saurian. I forgot what the Warden for the
Glacial Saurian.
Fueled by Glacial Saurian that's like playing for this mid game and has like some finisher tool that used to be Warden and now might be still Warden, might be something else. That definitely sounds believable to me. That we just like copy and paste the same 40 cards, definitely not. But how much difference there will be, hard for me to say. And like you could definitely see stuff like Aatrox Vein, and it's like that deck is similar to Warden if the deck just says like, okay, I want to be playing like full-blown Darken stuff and go back to Aatrox Vein and have late game of Darken units. Okay, I see that as like same ballpark deck, but I'm very liberal with what I group in the same ballpark. So,
but the issue is if you're playing Aatrox Vein, you don't get Omen Hawk, you don't get Soran, you don't get Sky Splitter, man. Come on, those are your best cards.
they are my best cards. So
you didn't mention Harshwind though, okay, but yeah.
That card's pretty good too.
Don't like playing.
Yeah, I think that this is. I think this looks like a big nerf. I don't think it's as big of a nerf as it might otherwise be. We'll see though. I could be wrong.
I think whatever likes this, but I don't think it's gonna be like I said, like near tier 1. I doubt that, to be honest.
We'll see. We'll see.
Rest in piss.
07.
There will be no 07s for Wildfire in my chat.
This
Yeah.
is one of the things that I mind these nerfs. I think this is
What?
such a lazy change. Okay, I do agree that Wildfire is problematic. It would be problematic eventually. Now it was doing some, especially when you were playing bad decks. It was very frustrating to play into it. That's why Reddit hated it, because Reddit likes to play bad decks, and if you play bad deck, you're gonna fucking lose to Wildfire because your deck fucking sucks. So you're fucking it's karma once again. Like, that's the thinking. But you just killed the cat. Like, you just unpainted it. And that's something that I mind. I think you could have done more interesting stuff with it. Like, the cat is
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah,
Go
two
next.
cost Wildfire. I think that we can agree that any existing build of this card has been removed from the game. Um, I think that the card was like a little bit toxic. I think it's understandable to dislike this card. I will say the only reason it was in the meta was because it was beating
Right.
earlier mid range. But yeah, this I I think it's reasonable to nerf this card. I think it's reasonable to remove this card. I just wish that they had, tried to make it playable. I just struggle to see how this card could ever see play as just 2 costs because it doesn't do anything. The nerf that I suggested was 2 costs, but it can target anything. So there's like a reason to play it. Maybe we can try to build piles around it. I genuinely don't think this card's playable though.
I did like your suggestion more. I thought that was a lot more interesting, and I will agree that this nerf is pretty boring. But old Wildfire was like so insufferable. I mean, the deck was pretty bad. Just unequivocally, like, yeah, I know some people made some deep runs and opens with it. The deck sucked. Like, any way you tried to slice it, this deck was terrible. It was also like very, very frustrating to deal with because they had a lot of hands and they had a lot of games that you were just never beating. And I mean,
I think it's super matchup dependent, of course, right? I
yeah,
think that's the thing is that this deck's like
It was
super
polarizing. Yeah.
polarizing.
It was
Yeah.
polarizing.
Because like if you're playing a good deck that's able to like turn on the gas, like they have trouble not dying.
yeah.
And you just fucking kill them.
If you put
Uh,
any deck with 1 point of healing, you basically won. Basically, like, also, like, that was
but yeah,
also, yeah.
Yeah.
there've definitely been games where they burn me out for fucking 35, and it's like okay, well, I good fucking luck, I guess. If you aren't able to turn on the gas, like you can't beat this deck.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. I just wish that they had done something more interesting with this card. I hope that they come back and revisit it at some point.
It's
Because
a
it basically existed for a month, and then they said, "All right,
Yeah, it
get
is
rid of
a
that."
really boring change. The one like
Mhm.
most interesting part about this change to me was they were talking about it on the dev stream, and there was a comment of like Wildfire is crushing our metrics, and that's why we nerfed it. I was like, that's very interesting to me because like if you look at the metrics that we have access to, like this card looks horrific. And if they sat there and were like, okay, this deck is pretty frustrating, we're not super happy with how it landed, that tells me very different things than them saying like it's crushing our metrics. But I
But they
mean,
Yeah,
didn't say what metrics. It might have been like, I don't know, gold metrics, right? And if there's like
yeah, I
80%
don't
win rate,
know.
like,
It's just like
my
very
assumption is like purely baseless, but I assume that they're either talking about like low elo play, like either it has like an insane win rate in low elo, which would make sense if you're playing a bad deck, you're gonna have a bad time in a Wildfire. Um, or maybe there's like win rate into non-tier 1 decks is like way too high. I'm sure there are metrics that justify
yeah.
this.
I'm not
Yeah.
so curious that like we just have bad data or something, but I'm like very curious what the metrics they use are because I
Yeah,
know
it's
we don't have a full view, but it's like, oh, very interesting to know there were metrics that Wildfire was crushing. Be curious to know what those are.
for
But
sure.
Mhm.
For sure.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
previously they used win rate in Plat Plus, which none of our data tools have anymore. Mobilytics said they did in the past, but I don't even believe that they did. So,
Is AR not Plot Plus? I thought the
mm,
front page of AR was.
so AR tracks people if they like sign up. It tries to track everybody in Masters all of the time. It tracks previous season Masters, which like probably is a decent proxy for Plat Plus. But there is no way to query who is playing the game that's outside of Masters. So the best guess that you can do is you can like ask the API of known Masters, and you can find their opponents that you don't have in Masters, and those are diamonds. And then you find their opponents, and that might be platinum, but like You're getting real deep
Interesting.
in the weeds, and you can't really just say like, "Give me plat plus data." So
Okay. So yeah, Wildfire Dedge.
yeah,
Watchful Idol, 0.5 to a 0.4, so you only get 2 pings on it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
maybe
Still
Swain
playable in
here.
Halloween.
Maybe we
Or
unnerf
Swain?
Swain.
Yeah.
I think it is interesting because they did mention that like Watchful Idol is kind of like gatekeeping Swain from being able to exist in the meta.
Mhm.
Because they can't buff him or like take him out of the 16 damage hellhole that he's in right now
Mhm.
while this card existed as it was. So we'll see where this lands. If they're able to like buff up Swain after this. I've been
It'll be cool.
long saying that Alawi's literally the best. They're the second best champion in the game behind Janna. So I think that Alawi is poised in a post-Warden world to take the meta by storm. I think it's a reasonable nerf. I don't think it's as much.
I think it's a pretty
It's gonna
decent
matter,
nerf,
right?
but I don't know if it like really hurts a lot. Like the thing is, Alawi's definitely weaker than she was in Warden meta because like you lost full power Watchful Idol. Shocker. I think Alawi's probably buffed from the last time we saw a lot of Alawi because you got Vile Feast, whatever that card is called. And it's like that
Tidal
is a
Invocation's crazy.
yeah, that
Card's
is a
really good.
big deal for Alawi. And like, sure, you've lost Watchful Idol since then, but you got Tidal Invocation. So like probably
When you say
overall a buff.
lost, this card is still like
Oh, you still
pretty
play
good, I
3,
think.
and it's like still your
Yeah.
best card.
It's
But
still decent. I don't think you are formally Gendo anymore, but I think the card is completely fine. And I think Elo is still gonna be completely fine. It's kind of sad for the Swain because like he's actively unlovable currently. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in a non-flock format. Like maybe Swain's just getting rotated. But like, fuck me. I don't know how you're supposed to flip.
You
from
can
it.
play Banquet Hall now. Kill
Yeah,
your
Banquet
all
Hall.
units, and then you play Swain.
True. In my Swindler's Den Banquet Hall deck, I'll throw in a Swain and he'll be flipped and that'll be the sauce.
Oh, they also killed the Wildfire combo, huh? That's also a good point.
Yeah.
So I have to. I mentioning Swindler's Den just makes me curious. What happens if you have a Swindler's Den and you draw Tidecaller?
What's Tidecaller?
Nihil
What's that?
Boat,
Oh.
right? Do
Oh.
I not remember the name?
It's probably not fleeting, right?
Yeah,
It's
but
just
like,
aura, I think.
does
Yeah.
it
I think
keep
it's
trying
aura.
to give it fleeting and it just like keeps revealing to your opponent? Like, does it crash the game?
That would be pretty funny, actually. That would be pretty
Oh,
funny.
like no, I think Swindle's Den is aura. Okay, I have no idea.
Okay, if Riot answered this, my bet is this is hard coded and it used to crash the game, but they found that out.
Can somebody in chat try it and we can
It's
figure it out.
2 auras going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I would bet money that there was a problem in development.
Yeah, if it's working like one way or another, there was definitely some point of time when it was bugged and it got completely broken or something.
Yeah, I just want to say another card that's been incredibly good in standard, for many, 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 many seasons. Alawi. Maybe substantial nerfs in the future for this card.
God, please.
Varus. How about Varus? There's a lot of these Heimer Jace decks in the meta that people seem to not think about.
Look,
Varus got bugged.
Look,
Spoilers, sorry.
you may be trying to catch me out and be like, oh, you don't want that one nerfed. Oh no, I want these nerfed too.
No, I do
Take
not
'em
for a
all out.
second think that you don't. I think there's a lot of people out there that really hate Heimer Jace and give a pass to a lot of these decks.
They can all go.
All right. Sting Officer, 2-1 to 1-2. It trades favorably into Omen Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
I do
It kills
think
Team as well.
it was pretty interesting to watch the reaction because people were like, this is a buff. And I actually think they're correct. This is a buff to Sting Officer, but I definitely think it's a nerf to Elusives. So
It's buff for like Caitlyn decks, but issues that no Caitlyn decks like
yeah,
Caitlyn.
I mean, I don't know if it's a
Yeah,
relevant
it's
buff
fine.
because like the decks that play this other than Elusives are so bad. But I do think Sting Officer is a better card now, but it's not good.
But the card's gonna see less play. Yeah,
Yes,
it's like
yeah,
that's the
for
thing.
sure.
It is funny that like this card was basically like 10th down the list in terms of like elusives and it was literally only getting played because the elusive decks just wanted more elusive bodies, and they're like, "Shit, I guess we gotta play Sting Officer." It is funny that this is the card that ends up getting hit. I get it.
Yeah.
Um, I I personally think if you're trying to hit the elusive decks, I think Yumi was the hit. Uh, but otherwise, yeah, because like I think that the way that you should be beating these decks is like with removal and any amount of interaction, or by just beating their face in. And I think that Yumi like makes a lot of the removal options like less efficient and a lot less able to actually get through elusives. It's
Yeah.
it's weird to me that if you're wanting to hit elusives, this is the card we landed on.
I mean, I
Mhm.
will say I don't know if you really should have nerfed elusives because I feel like something's gone wrong and you have other problems in your format when people were like, I guess I'm gonna play some Daring Poros. And it's like, okay. The problem
It's
here is not the power level of this deck at this point.
Yeah, and the thing is that these decks, right? Like this and Wildfire, like I'm not gonna sit here and tell you the Luces and Wildfire were like super fun and interesting to like play against. They're super cringe, not a fan of them at all. But the only reason that they existed was to take advantage of Warden. And like
I think
it's
so.
weird that Warden A got anti-elusive tools and B, these decks ate fat fucking nerfs. That's weird to me. Yeah.
Um,
I don't know, man.
alright, well, we talked about this one. Innovative Blacksmith. Happy to see this. I feel like Weaponmasters and Freljord has like been too good for a bit. But
Mhm.
I don't know how relevant this is because like aggro is kind of just non-existent, and they took the one like sort of existent aggro deck out back. So
It matters. It matters. Like it will matter. And like now we're gonna be like actually having, especially with like the Jux decks and stuff discussion. Do I want to play Castaways? Do I want to play
oh,
Blacksmiths?
you like don't play this card obviously, but if you have the option to play
Oh, you mean that
Castaway, you're
way?
just
Oh,
gonna do that. But like losing their access to healing, I don't know how big of a deal that is
oh
because
you think completely cut? You think that no Blacksmith anymore?
if you're playing Jack Thorn, yeah, you have access to Castaway. You're just
Yeah,
gonna play
I
that
think
one.
Jack's not there, but like I think in some stuff photos you can play it. And if there's I don't know some Jinx deck popping off, I don't know Jinx something,
Sure.
then like you can be like having some argument to play Blacksmith still.
I think 2 health is like premium on these weapon masters. It makes it like so that they're very often able to hit like breakpoints where it's really hard like they're able to get like multiple value trades. So like I think that this card like still sees play. Um
It
I
was
don't
pretty
think
last
this is
time.
like I think this is like I think it's good that we nerfed this card. I don't think it's like that big of a nerf. Which
Yeah.
is fine.
It's not auto-include anymore. It was like such an auto-include. You played always 3 copies, and
Yeah.
now you don't have to play it. You can play maybe 1 copy, 2
Yeah.
copies.
I mean, I would not look at this card and be like, oh, this one's dead. I just feel like if you're playing a Jax deck and you're not already maxed on Castaways, I think you will play Castaway over this card now.
Mhm.
Maybe.
If it wasn't for a tune, no, because this one's better. But since Castaway has a tune, I think you'd play it.
Yeah. Yep. Overall, I think it's a good nerf. It doesn't change that much, but I do think it's a good nerf.
No. We've
Okay.
touched on Omenhawk quite a bit.
Sorry, I kept spoilersing down
I mean,
to
most of
Yeah.
these don't matter. I'm gonna go fast.
Omen
through 'em,
Hawk can
but
block an elusive. I think it's crazy. We were already jamming 3 Omen Hawk in like all these mid-range earlier decks.
I do think it's a little
Yeah.
silly to buff. Well, okay. They want this effect to be around, so they want to put it on a card that they know will see play. And I think it's fine to pick Omenhawk for that. I do think
Mhm.
it's a little bizarre when we're having this problem of earlier mid range and they're like, buff Omenhawk. Like, I mean, I guess like it's better than buffing Glacial Saurian, but
Am I wrong that Jaxorn literally got buffed?
I
I
I think this is bigger than the Omenhawk change.
I think
I
it's
do think
really
it's
think so?
essentially the
it
same.
depends on
but
matchup. Against elusive, of course, it got buffed.
Yeah, against their
Again,
bad matchup. Against like
yeah.
the shit that was beating it, it's like no longer beating it, right?
Yeah, but against good matchup, it got worse because the Blacksmith will hurt more.
Yeah. I don't know how much worse it got, but yeah.
But my thing, I do, by the way, like, I don't mind it being on Mono, by the way. I think like people are just like, oh, Monarch so crazy, man. Monarch wasn't like much played. Like it got like now played like in last 2 months. But like before that, we were even talking about like 2-1 Omenhawk, by the way. Like I
yeah.
remember that talk. And like I think they had maybe this longer time coming. I'm kind of sad it's only better on a Monarch. I think the cannon block elusive is kind of cool way how to nerf the elusives. I think that's like the way how you should be doing that. And it's on a Monarch, even though they were like teasing that's gonna be more. I guess they're gonna be more maybe an adventure, and I like this way how to nerf elusives.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were trying to like keep Glacial Saurian around because Glacial Saurian has propped up a lot of failure decks that I think they're trying to keep around. And like, I don't know, I can sit here and say that I'm like mostly enjoying Glacial Saurian decks, except for the fact that it like makes Weaponmasters just even better. But I don't know, Omen Hawk seems fine.
I'm going from a different direction. I think I'm pretty done with Glacial Saurian decks. And Omen Hawk, I think when we live in a world where like Jack Sorin is running triple Omen Hawk, this card was like already good. We talked about buffing Omen Hawk like fucking 9 months ago when like Freljord wasn't good, but Freljord's gotten so many good cards since then, and it's gotten so many buffs, and like has so much shit running over the meta that like I don't know, Omen Hawk getting buffed nowadays is fucking wacky.
Also, it's not only Jackson though to be mentioned. It's also Ashla Blanc. I think Ashla Blanc got even more hype than Jackson. I think because like Ashla Blanc didn't have really a way how to interact with elusives because like could have like phase them, but they're gonna attack the next turn again, right? So I think it's also a cool buff for Ashla Blanc.
I mean, it definitely matters, but
yeah,
this isn't a real card.
Seraphine buff.
Yeah, it's
sure.
Seraphine buff.
It's a high roll.
I don't even know if
this
is a buff for Seraphine. Do you want to hit that card?
Yeah, because you can. I think Recall is good. I think for Seraphine usually.
Let me hit retreat your turn.
I mean, that's better, but I think it's okay to hit this one. But like, I was actually really excited to see this buff because I was like, oh, cool. Like this card's not dog shit in the early game, so I can like try and figure out a way to do something stupid. There's no way. There's nothing stupid to do.
Counterpoint. You bounce your opponent's Warden,
Homecoming
and then you
got
summon
rotated.
your own Warden.
Tell me how I'm bouncing shit in this deck.
With Will Vionia. Capsize. You capsize.
Yes,
the most broken carrot. What you mean?
You capsize Saurian. Oh my god. Then you get your own Saurian. Yeah, Children of course. People will try it. Maybe it was secretly broken all this time.
No.
Unlikely, but maybe.
I tried real hard to find stuff to put into play with this that would like win me the game. I was unsuccessful.
If they didn't change Cobra, you could have bounced your Cobra and then
so true. Cobra would have helped, but
Diamond buff.
I mean, there's like several in these that is cool, but it's just like buffs for like Clash of Titans and stuff. I don't think they're gonna see play.
Eldred kind of locks down a board. Like he kind of do be. I don't know if you played against like Eldred in like timelines or Eldred like when he does end up coming down. Like Eldred fucks. It is not a bad card. He just doesn't win the game on the spot. So it's like 8 drops kind of usually need to.
You have to somehow cheat him, but like he is good if he gets into play. Now he's better. So
yeah, he's like
maybe just ramp into him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the cut's much better now, but it's like where to play it. Yeah.
Will Jack finally be a real champion?
I made a change. I was asking so long for this whole. I think biggest issue of Jack Boat is that Nila both got released, and it's doing much better things, I think. But I'm gonna cook with Tristana Jack, so that's something I'm excited about.
See, the problem is you sit here and say like Tristana Jack. I would like to tell you that I have the belief that you should play Tristana Jack Gnar with one Jack to tutor him with both. Unfortunately, I still believe that if you play Tristana Gnar, the correct choice is still not playing Jack.
Maybe. I think that King's Court drawing Jack, I think that it was like really nice in these decks actually. I think a lot of times if you're making it to these later turns, you're getting to a point where you're out of like bombs and it's like, okay, I have King's Court coming down. Having like the extra, the Jack like that late in the game is like probably gonna be flipped. I think it's like reasonable. Maybe you could play Jack. Maybe you could play Jack.
But I think it's so weird. I think it's a fine buff. I'm just very unconvinced that Jack does anything.
But it was so weird to me that this wasn't during Jack at stat on the earliest because I think I was talking about it. Like I think this card is so designed to draw check, because I think the card of this is that you play it for 7 mana. You get the attune, so with that attune you play coin and you play check, and that instantly levels your check. I think that isn't that just like the design philosophy about this card?
From what I heard, the devs when this card first came out, mentioned that they were that like they had talked about it potentially being a boat. But one of the things they want to cut down on is card text, and
Oh,
shout out to our German players. The German card of this is just not gonna have a picture. It's gonna be all text. So that's apparently that's something they keep in mind. Yeah, there's a lot of text on this card.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see the change, but I am just kind of doubtful that this does anything. I think when they were developing Jack, like I don't know why, I don't know what happened, but somehow in dev they were finding Jack just way stronger than he is, because it's stuff like they talked about how the Jack's Risky Venture was like 3 mana or 4 mana deal 3, what it currently is after the buff in dev, and they were finding it like way too good and it was going to carry the
and
thing.
the
It's like
healing,
toned it down, and then like they released this and it's just like
Do you
not
remember
happening.
when there was the dev that was like, yeah, there's like an like you guys haven't seen the Jack set build. We're tracking your stuff and you
Yeah,
guys haven't figured it out yet, but there's a broken Jack set deck out there.
yeah, that was Rune that made that comment. I mean, I don't remember
Yeah.
the exact phrasing or what it is. I
Maybe
mean,
we need help at this point. If there's a list,
uh,
ship us a list.
exactly,
I played a
exactly. Yeah,
lot of
before
Jack set,
open.
and I felt like that deck was unfixable. Um,
It just ran out of cards.
yeah,
That's
the problem is you couldn't play formula. If the deck could play formula, I think the deck would be good. But
yeah.
you just
Formula is
cannot.
so good with Jack and set.
Yes.
Like,
Yep. Both of those
yeah.
champs need formula. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, my 2 champs are in 2 regions and formula's in a third. So
Yeah.
I
Formula's
guess I'll
cool.
just be
What about
unhappy.
making from your approach rather?
Oh my god. Knuckle, Mako, Bowl. Swapping of some keywords, buff on Bowl. Um,
Cool.
yeah, it's
Not
cool. I think
happening.
it makes sense. It's
It
cool.
makes sense. It was so weird. Like I was playing some of the knuckle and stuff. I was like cooking with it, and like it was so weird. Like that make us over, and like everyone just jump blocked my blue. And I was like, what is going on? Like, it will feel much better, and I wouldn't be surprised if there might be decent deck with it. Like I don't think good, but maybe decent deck.
So I played a lot of Jack set, and this card was good there. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they nerfed coin, and I don't think that deck's coming back.
Do you guys remember when we thought that Barnacles was going to be the most broken card in the game?
I mean, I will tell you, going Grumble Slug into Barnacles makes you think you're playing a real deck. That curve is fucked up.
They're also playing. Spoiler alert: Mad Ol' Babs got
Yeah.
buffed, and has a tune now. I was talking with someone who is playing, these types of decks, and I was like, you want X number of attune 2-drops, so they're playing like coral creatures and shit. I'm like, I don't think coral creatures fits this deck. So maybe with Mad Ol' Babs, maybe there's a lot of buffs. There's a lot of buffs that came into this. Deck.
That this also becomes like a wielder for Barnacles is kind of exciting. But I have a hard time believing that we're even getting back to pre-coin nerf, and like pre-coin nerf, the deck wasn't good. So
It is funny how many buffs this deck has gotten, right?
yeah,
The Angel buff, if you remember, Angel just fucking prints you an assload of coins now. The Jack spell change, I felt like it was kind of a nerf, but you could call it a buff if you want. Jack himself, it got buffed. Like there's so many buffs thrown at this deck. If we haven't figured it out by now, maybe we're hopeless.
Yeah, we need
Right.
help. Help.
just
Yeah.
ship us the list. Come on.
Wrath of the Freljord. This is another card that I feel like if when you got it into play, this card like fucks.
It's
Yeah,
just
maybe
8
with the
mana.
on play
Yeah.
effect, it's gonna be good enough. But like this card does things, so like I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up in some deck.
Yeah.
But aware, that's my I don't know. That's my issue with these cards.
I mean, I don't know. I just see like 8 mana cards that don't literally say you win the game, and I'm like, oh, unplayable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, when you look at it and then you compare it like Warden that we just had, like it's like kind of sad.
Yeah, and Warden was broken.
I mean,
Shark Trader.
let's be clear. You gave
Okay.
Warden, and Warden made one broken deck. It made some other playable decks, but it had one broken one. This is not Warden. This is not doing much.
Yeah. Shark Trader no longer needs spell mana to summon the shark.
This was
I
really annoying.
I
Don't think it
promise you,
matters.
literally every single streamer that ever streamed through like the any mayor deck has absolutely fucked up this card on stream and been like, oh no, I forgot I needed mana. So yeah, it's a good change.
Myra buff, like you didn't make this card, but Myra buff, cool. Tristana buff, Tristana jerk, smile.
I would be curious how many games this card has been played out of a main deck.
Probably not many.
Not mana.
I would
But
say
it's a mayor
at
card, right? Like
yeah.
it's a very common pick off of mayor.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even outside of like Mayor specifically, I do think there are cards that exist that are for random pools. Where like I really felt that with like Nico's release, where there were cards that were printed that was like explicitly for value generation off the cap. And it's like, okay, that's why this card exists. It's not expecting main deck play ever. So,
Mhm.
All right.
Metal Babs we talked about. I mean, maybe
Music Crow Phoenix. Can I be honest? I think I said before that like people should play Volibear spell. I think Volibear spell is pretty potentially good. I think this card is not. I don't think this matters. If you made it to turn 10, aren't you winning anyway? What is this?
Karma buff. This karma.
Yeah,
It deals
I don't think this card.
He has
realistically, I think this might do something in like an Iacilla deck.
You made it to turn 10, you won anyway. What
Hopefully.
is what's
Yeah,
the
but
enlightened deck
you have
rotation?
Echelon bird and you have turned 10, you won. Yeah, like the game is over.
I mean, if you've played Iacilla decks, that deck kind of sucks. So you make it to turn 10, you're not actually guaranteed to be winning.
Are you not printing like 40/40s? What are you
hopefully.
doing with Yasilla?
I don't know. I don't have high hopes for this card, but I think this could be useful as like late game heal 6 off Iacilla.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's just certain mana heal 6.
I know it's healing anyway, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was healing.
It killed your Iacilla in the past.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I will say I don't have high hopes for this card, but
yeah,
if it goes anywhere, that is where I could imagine it going.
Herring Return.
Eternal.
Yeah, an Eternal, this card's really scary, right?
Wraith Caller,
Yes. Yeah, Wraith Caller. Wraith Caller comes back with Fearsome.
There's already played with the Nocturne Noxus deck. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it.
Yeah.
We can sigil the storms into Zondivas. Any takers?
Yeah.
Takers?
I don't know how you're sigilling and activating Zondiva at a point where, but yeah, you can.
Yeah, there's that spell that makes a sigil storm. Like, let's go.
Nerf to Clash of Giants, like huge nerf to Clash of Giants.
Gemcrafter. I feel like Gemcrafter like isn't a standard card. Is that crazy?
I don't think this card functions without Zoe and Aphelios. Like, not even
It doesn't
Zoe
have
or
spells, yeah.
Aphelios. You need both.
He's like elusives too to like put
Elusive,
buffs
like,
on.
yeah. You play so many elusives, play gems, and yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we sit in Eternal with an elusive stupid deck.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like I don't even know where to begin with like a standard build for this.
Yeah.
I
It's got better. Like the card is good. It's actually decent now.
Yeah.
Doubtful.
Ari.
I mean, let me know when we get Mourned and or Homecoming back.
Yeah, Modern Homecoming, I'll be missing so much. I think it might be maybe decent in standard, but missing these two cards, they just hurt so much.
I mean,
I've been saying forever. Like I've played a fair bit of Ari. I feel like the issue with Ari has nothing to do with Ari's power level or Kennon's power level or Droplet's power level. It's everything to do with consistency. I think if you like draw the cards, your deck functions and does a strong thing. And I don't think that like buffing Ari is like doing much because the issue is like your consistency. What happens when you don't draw literally, like 2 of these 3 cards? Your deck does nothing. Yeah, I don't think this. I mean, it's cool. Your RE hands are better, but I think your RE hands were already good. Yeah.
And I don't think it does much relevant. This is the path of champions pretty much change. Great change. Happy to see it. Doesn't really matter for me.
It buffs Aram.
It does.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Con now summons the strongest dead ally, huh?
I mean, Otacon resurrecting Otacon is like kind of spooky, but that presumes I've played an Otacon in the previous chunk of this game, and
Like,
I don't want to
my
play
issue
one of
with
this
this, like,
card, much less 2.
my issue, you can ramp into this, sure. But you can also ramp to Shu, and I'm much interested more to ramp into Shu.
Big fan of Shu. Do that.
This card wins the game on the spot, right? If your opponent can't remove it or can't stun it, this card does win the game on the spot.
This
But
is
Shu wins
10
the game
mana?
if they can remove it.
Yeah, I know it's 10 mana, but that's like saying Volibear's 9 mana. Like Volibear's not 9 mana. Like this is like a sigil deck. You're curving like fucking Rond on 6 into Otacon on 7, right? And like, we could say whether or not that's actually winning you the game. Hard to say. But like that's what's happening.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but
that
it
does
might
sound
be.
better.
That sounds good then.
Rond on 6, Otacon on 7 does actually sound passable.
That sounds playable, right? That sounds like a
It doesn't sound bad. I get you, but
Yeah.
you need to be so like, what is gonna then attack? Like, is that then what does he revive? Like, what does he revive? Like, your 2/3 that you played on turn 3, or like,
I think the relevant part is if you do that and your opponent like somehow deals with your board with like Ruination or something, then when you play second Otacon, like it just resurrects an Otacon, and you're like, now I'm dying. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess you might be right. Maybe I can see that, but I still like have high dopes because I think that Shu is better.
I think it's I think it's an interesting change. And I think that there's potential out there. I think people will brew with it. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up in like a playable shell. But I think that we're so conditioned to like see Otacon and be like, oh, that's a mean card, and
yeah,
just move past it.
I don't
Consult the heavens.
Eternal.
I don't even think this is Eternal, dude.
Yeah, but like if it were to be played, it's probably gonna be with Rocker or TK or Braum, right? It's
Yeah.
not.
It's
sure.
haircut TK, I think. This could be kind of funny when like they destroy your landmark and they're gonna be like, okay, I'm down to kill you, bro.
Yeah.
They're just gonna smash you, but I guess
Clash of Clan? What?
Clash
Clash
of
of
Clash of
Giants?
Clans?
Kitsa-homie. We're gonna
Clash
go
of
with
Clans?
Kitsa-homie.
That's a spot.
Is this a sponsor segment? Holy shit!
What a plug. Yeah, Kitsa-homie. That is a buff for that one. So
That's a good hit from Clash of Giants.
yeah.
That's
I
a bad hit
guess,
from Clash of Giants.
yeah, I mean, I guess you can use Sigil of the Storm into Tusk Raider, and maybe
That's also interesting, by the way. Like
okay.
buffing your deck, doubling your deck on turn like 6 sounds kind of interesting, but
I mean, turn 6, why stop there? Just do it on turn 5, bro. This is the new what was his name? The 5/6 that nobody plays.
Berserker, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
This does not have hope.
Do you think that card sees play as like a one of in a Seraphine deck?
Liminal, the 9 lives?
Yeah, the 9 lives card.
In a Seraphine deck where you're just like looking for spells with different names, I would believe it.
And like burst speed blockers? I think it might. I think it might.
In Seraphine, I could believe it. As
In
like just a
Karma.
normal card that you're gonna play. Absolutely
Okay, Karma's
not.
not playing it.
But
Karma doesn't want to play this shit.
Man, Alan thought that he wants to play this, so I believe in Alan.
Singular Will? I mean, it's in line with Ruination now.
yeah, I mean, if we hadn't just nerfed Warden, maybe. But
No,
Also well played,
just
right?
let him sorry on you again. It'll be fine, Copium.
Yeah.
what am I resurrecting? Like
With
Vega.
Haunted Tomb, yeah. And it is Viego, but
I mean,
Yeah, it's Vega.
it's Otacon.
so true, so true.
Yeah, Haunted Tomb. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see.
I think
Okay.
it could be playable with Vega. Like, let's be honest, like it's something like the stopwatch. the 3 mana, for Vego, kinda.
Yeah, but there's like a
Different
million
way.
explorers around now, so like
I get you. Are there explorers? I don't know. I
Okay,
don't see
here's
them
my
every
thing. I don't know how long we can use the explorer argument because the thing is, people just aren't playing them.
no
Like
one's playing landmarks. Landmarks are a joke because of explorers. If you play
but
landmarks,
like
people play explorers.
this cycle will happen where like we're gonna come out with like a sunken temple deck. It's gonna be like broken for like 2 days. People are gonna play explorers. We're gonna quit playing the sunken temple deck.
Yes.
It's gonna like cycle every week for the next.
And then on
These
Open,
people-
they're gonna be like, mind games.
Yeah, but like,
yeah.
are you gonna be the guy who's like, oh, people aren't playing explorers right now? I'm gonna load up Haunted Tomb. Or are you gonna go load up Sunken Temple?
I mean, if you go hit your your 6 hour window, fuck it, try Haunted Tomb. Let's see how it goes.
I think my issue. Wait, is it this for your Jana Vego deck of Aikado? The one that you were so
This
much.
is for Jana Viega. Oh, at 0 mana, this card yeah, okay, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the vision. That's also a sunken temple deck, so they have to choose which one to hit.
But my issue with this card is, I think Vego sucks. So
Wait, it brings
that's-
back Jana. Wait, if I place card on turn 3 and I play Jana, they can't kill Jana because if they kill Jana, I just get it back. Holy shit, we're cooking. We're cooking. Mm. Rash Gambler. The
Great
bit on
change.
this. Did you guys see the bit?
Yeah, the bit was
man,
hilarious.
yeah, that was so funny. I love the trash combo. Just deep.
The best part about it was like, for like 2 or 3 ones, it was believable, and then it wasn't believable, and then they brought out the just hilarious ones like Trash Gambler, Ash Gambler, just
Yeah,
nonsense.
I like that. That was very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can wait for my timeline's opponent at Eternal to pull it off from Combat Cook.
Yeah, Combat Cook, Scout,
God. Timelines will get nerfed. Hopefully, Copium.
Praegium.
Exhaust. I think this card's broken.
I think this card is very, very good. Yeah. Action Virus or something like that, I would assume. Especially into like Jana.
Have you ever been scrying sands?
Yeah. Like this is just like outside of Echo, this is like better Skunk Sense. You were playing Skunk Sense in even like I don't know, Summer and stuff. Summer Action, right? And I think this card is very good.
I mean, I think it's definitely good. I'm not gonna sit here and say broken though.
I mean, I don't
I'm
know if
saying
it's
not.
broken. I think it's definitely gonna get played in like almost every Shurima deck. I think it's funny though that they did this weird thing where they're like, oh, now Shurima has more tools to deal with elusives. And it's like, yeah, Shurima has quicksand. I don't think Shurima was losing to fucking elusives anyway.
That was a little bizarre.
But yeah, it's. I mean, I think this card's really strong though.
Also buffer a Connecton, of course. Cause like Exile was like always it was even played now in these like in the last meta. It was like played in the Shurima Warden. And like the card was always like feeling very good when you use it, but now that you can also use it defensively, as a combat trick when your opponent does something. I like this. I do like it.
It's a good change. I'm happy to see it. I just don't know if I'm like particularly interested in playing Shurima decks that want exhaust, even if this card is playable.
Yeah, I think issues like Shurima. Now we're talking about Shurima issues, not like about exhaust issues.
Yeah.
Noble Rebel. We talked about it a lot on stream last night. I don't know how you're supposed to play this card. How do you activate this card?
I think this is nerf. Like, yeah, it's not. I don't know what this guy does in standard. I don't know why is it in standard, but
I think it's a cool idea to have like this challenger unit, but like,
yeah,
it's not buffing enough of its health to like be double trading into things most of the time anyway. And if you do activate it, are we supposed to like Zonite Rummage and then like this card's activated on 3? Are we activating on 4? I don't know how you're supposed to play this card. Maybe I'm just too smooth brain.
I would agree that like there has been this problem and the Scion package really has it, where like the Scion package needs Draven. Like it's not functional without Draven. And Draven's rotated. So like Scion package, it's not going anywhere. And like maybe Challenger is like an improvement to the Scion package. I'm also pretty doubtful compared to Overwhelm, but like this is not going to save Scion because Scion was designed around Draven, and doesn't have
And I
Draven.
don't they said a Scion package buff. Like this isn't a buff to Scion, it's like a buff to like some mid-rangey control Noxus deck. But like those don't exist because Flock got rotated and every single thing that we're trying to do in Noxus got nerfed. Sidebar, Noxus, arguably worst region in the game now, right?
Probably
Samira got gutted. What do we play in Noxus?
Otacon.
Yes, we don't play anything in Noxus is not a playable region. I said for a long time, like post rotation, that Noxus lost everything, and the only reason that nobody was talking about it was because Samira came out and Samira was broken. And like now that Samira's been like well and truly gutted, there's nothing in Noxus. There's nothing worth playing. Yeah, so there's nothing worth playing. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's rough out there. It's rough out there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Noxus is one of the regions that like we have a serious like post-rotation kind of hangover where like I mean, I think it's like really obvious with like Shadow Isles and Targon that are just not functional as regions. Like, what champions do either of those regions have? Like, Darkness has Senna and Vhagar, but Darkness isn't particularly good. Like, if you want to play an SI champion, like, what are you playing?
Viego. It's Darkness and Viego. Those are the SI champions.
And Targon is like we got Pantheon.
Leona's
probably a champion again, but like
you have to like Gwen in SI though. Like I think Gwen is like Gwen Vayne isn't that bad as a deck.
Sure, I mean like you can make these regions sort of work if you try hard enough, but like they definitely don't feel like a region. They feel like a package, maybe two.
It does feel like that's been the case for like multiple regions, right? And like when they're being like band-aid propped up by like one deck, whether that's Karma Set or like Samira, whatever. Like once you get rid of that band-aid, it feels like we're just looking at it's like Ioni's not playable, Noxus isn't playable. What's my SI deck? It's just like we're getting to a point where it's like I don't know how I'm supposed to do with this region.
Yeah, I do agree with you that like for example the Gwen, like Gwen is kind of Runeterra champions if you think about it, right? Like it's like if it was a Gwen and you could play all Hallowed units, right? Of course you get like things like Riders or something or Soul Harvest. The same with Vego kind of, right? That it's feeling weird, yeah.
Also, for chat, Leona 100% deserved her fucking nerf. If you don't remember, Leona coming down flipped every game on turn 5, locking down the entire game. You're fucking smoking the reefer. That shit's crazy, dude.
Leona definitely deserved her nerf, but like Leona also is like, I mean, people compare stuff to Lurk and Jest. I actually think that comparison is decent. And like, Leona played Leona cards, and nothing else played Leona cards. And like, Leona only played Leona cards. It's just the same deck building thing of like, Control F, Daybreak, put them all in. That's your deck. Control F, Lurk, put them all in. That's your deck. So like, it's hard for me to sit there and say that like Leona was good for Targon when it was like Leona was just a Runeterran region of here are the Leona cards.
Yeah. Flamecaller Caprine. This card's unkillable. I mean, that's just this card's literally an unkillable card,
like,
but I don't know what we do with it.
Yeah.
Maybe Sky Splitter didn't. Sky Splitter's such a.
I had it with Roger yesterday. He was like at my stream, and I was like, he was saying that he believes that this card is pretty good. Like when you play this and then we then play later Volleyball or something, like this card is actually unplayable, so that's unkillable. So, I don't know, maybe.
The fact that it forges is interesting, although I feel like that's hard to abuse. You need to get a weapon on it, and then your opponent presumably has to kill this thing. Which
this thing doesn't die, especially because we like Disintegrate and like Scorched Earth aren't playable cards right now. So like what you have to Vengeance this card. How do you kill this card other than Vengeance? To be fair, I don't know if like this card being unkillable is like good enough for it to like see a ton of play. We'll have to see, but like this card is literally unkillable.
You can slap Overwhelm on it. If you put like Great Hammers on it, they have to kill it or it kills them. So
true. It's the Otacon deck. Yo,
so true.
Clock Hand. Normally I would say this does nothing, but there is a community kitchen card coming out that is a landmark with a large countdown. Maybe there's cook in there.
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't think so.
Okay. Berserker Ursine? I feel like this doesn't fix the issue of the card. The card just like
Yeah.
doesn't fit
They-
in Volibear.
If it had, honestly, like, I think the buffs make it 8-3, so it's Titanic. So you can like, you can sigil into it, and then you can continue with that, right?
I think that'd be a little
think-
spooky, but yeah, they did
Would
fix the bug, to be clear.
The issue with this card is that like it doesn't fit into the curve because like you're usually playing Rond on a turn that you would have played Ursine on. And then
Yeah.
like after that, these Titanic decks like want to get out like one Titanic unit. Ursine, makes you think that you want to get out like multiple. But like if you're running a ton of Titanic units, what the fuck is your deck? You
Yeah.
have no playable cards.
Yeah.
The card just like doesn't function, I feel like.
It doesn't work with the deck. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Titanic, like, I don't know. It's cool ramp. It's better than other ramp ideas that we've seen in the past. But there is this kind of problem of like, you basically try and ramp into Rond, and then you ramp into some payoff. And that's like,
Yeah.
That's what you can do.
Which Rond is really good. I think a card's like,
Yeah.
It bridges
Okay,
you
okay.
from like 6 mana to whatever you're ramping into. So
which is why I wish that they could have just fucking gutted Shoe on her so we don't have to. Mega Tusk, deep. That is a
Deep.
yeah.
Wait, I
Um,
would just talk about. I think Deep might come back. I think Deep in standard isn't that horrific, and I think especially for tournament play, I wouldn't surprise that we see some Deep players. I don't think that they're gonna be like the best one, but I think encountering some mid-range decks, I think Deep is doing its thing very often.
So Orange Jax can play Buried in Ice, and Deep is not a fan of that one.
I see. Yeah, okay. Jax is not a thing, and
the
you have to
issue is
ban
that Jax Orange just the best deck in the game.
Yeah, so you lose to that, and now you have to accept that. So you lose to that.
No,
You lose to
see,
Janna.
you're missing the vision. You're missing the vision. Our one Ruination deck got gutted.
Mhm.
Deep is the new Ruination deck. That's gonna be the thing that beats Jax Orange. He just
And
We
that,
found our Shadow Owls deck. We're good to go. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with this region.
yeah, I think I'm not a fan of Deep. It is what it is.
I think it's
King?
gonna see some tournament play. Like I'm very confident.
Deep has never been that bad. Even when people say it's bad, it's literally not. Like bad for Deep just means that like it's fine. It's like fine.
If you have Seascrap, man, I think Seascrap is just one of the best cards in the fucking game, man. Like that card is so good. And
yeah,
making
it's
it
just broken.
yeah.
Scarab is such. This deck is lurk.
Yes.
Every deck is lurk. Kane Shadow stuff. Yeah, we can flip Kane on 5. Yo, let's go.
That's big. I think this is huge, especially with Momentus bug fix.
Yeah, I'd
Kane
be
is will
interested
be
in
good.
exploring Kane again. I think it's
Kane
probably
Aatrox,
playable.
I
I would
think
assume Kane Aatrox, but
Deep is literally elites, by the way. Deep is the exact same thing as elites. Sorry, chat was talking about deep lists. Deep players are just like elites players, where they refuse to like change any card in their deck at all. They load up the same list they've been playing for 2 years. They forget that Soul Harvest is in the game. They forget that like fucking Hate Spike or the fucking Undergrowth. They just don't put any of these cards. It's literally like elites. It's like how elites they had to print an elite out of region to try and get any elites player to not play just 40 Demacia cards, even after allegiance. I'm sorry, I just
we're going off on deep
Yeah.
players.
yeah, sorry, Kane. Big buff. Big buff.
It's a bit buff. And yeah, I think Kane Aatrox is gonna be the deck.
I think the big thing about Kane is that he draws himself, so like this is like a very relevant buff, right?
Yeah, champion spells matter for tutoring champions. They matter a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Girl Explorer, that's a card.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna do a whole lot, but sure. Eclectic. If we hadn't just nerfed like good Heimerdinger decks, maybe, but
no,
Nora
I
can't-
think I never played Handler, right? In the past. So.
The issue with Nora is that there's this really weird card called Omen Hawk.
oh yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, weird. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
It might see like some play more. I think
Yeah.
that was very interesting in the past. I
Getting-
never liked it, but it was interesting play against it.
getting off strong at collected collections is like kind of okay, but I don't know. The weird part about it is like most of the power budget in a collected collection is going into the like portals, and presumably if you're playing a collected collection, you have a full board, and so all of a sudden the portals are like kind of whatever. And so
The
it's
idea
like
is that you like trade down your board, right? You know, you like swing 6 wide, they line up some blocks, you eclectic, and then you have refill.
yeah, I mean it like I do understand there's a dream there. I just feel like it's not really happening.
I feel
Yeah. I can see that.
There's a bunch of adjustments. This like probably is good for Seraphine. But
I like the call.
Seraphine, I
think it's actually just a really good change, the called shot, because like 90% of the time, this was just slowing down the game.
yeah,
It wasn't actually like meaningfully changing anything, except for like in Auction Infinite, you would like notify his card sometimes. But outside of that, I think this is just like a good change because it just
agree.
speeds up the game. I like it.
It was needlessly slow. We got some sick skins.
TF skin. Finally,
TF
we were
Hog.
talking so much about it.
We even got a sick
Finally.
Aurelian Soul.
Only in bundle though, with Battle Champion stuff.
Oh, sad.
How does it work? Do you have to
Buy the bundle to get the skin.
wait? Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It seems that he's gonna be only in the bundle.
Mhm.
And it's gonna get released on 1st November, so like in 3 weeks.
Interesting.
How many people do you
Awesome.
think got baited by this?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't even open up patch notes. So
Okay.
what is it? Competitive? Best season is reaching its peak with spots for worlds becoming more and more precious. Make sure your reviewer. So nothing. Okay, so nothing's changed.
Like literally
Okay.
nothing. It's telling you where to find information.
It's an acknowledgement. You know,
Yeah.
fucking competitive mentioned.
It's something to like mention because we don't much talk about. Yeah.
It is fine, and I think it's good that it's in the patch notes because like it's worthwhile saying like, hey, if you need information, go to this article. But it's just so hilarious that it's like in the roadmap, and you're like, oh, competitive? Is there something I need to know? And you click it, and you're like, hey, go look at this article. And you're like, okay.
Something to mention. I think the things that are happening in Path of Champions are pretty cool. Of course, I don't play Path of Champions, but they seem very, very cool. Like having the ASOL with the monthly challenges and stuff. I think it's very exciting. And also, like the bundle that we have with the ASOL skin. Seems that we finally like monetizing the Path of Champions players, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, stuff looks cool in Path of Champions. I wish I cared.
But then people seem to enjoy it. Like people, I was like watching Sunny stream, and like it seemed that people enjoy it. So
I don't even mean that ironically. Frequently, people are like, "I wish I cared," meaning like I don't give a shit and I don't plan to. And like, the stuff looks cool. I really do wish it was something I enjoyed. But
maybe you should, you know, the next time you feel down on the meta, go play some Path of Champions.
I might actually try it. Like they seem so cool, by the way. Like actually, like that's a funny thing. I was making like the wishes with and stuff, and somebody in my comments was like, "Don't buff ASO because he's broken in Path of Champions." And I was like,
"True."
I was like, "What?"
I see so many of those comments where people talk about like a random champions getting buffed or nerfed, and like, no, my Path of Champions run. I love that. I think that's great. It's great. Yeah.
I guess
fucking
we don't have
Joey came in and Joey was like, we could buff ASOL, just like take literally any of his star powers from Path and just put them in. And I read the star powers, so I'm like, Joey, you're high. What are you talking about? These are not.
Also, interesting thing is the post-match lobby. I guess I'm not part of
this is super cool.
This is cool. Like,
Damn, we lost, Edge.
We did lose.
No, we lost to Deep Jana, by the way, but just a small detail.
It doesn't
With
even
one
like
hex-
just give
wait,
you a
I
code,
want
it
that
actually
hex-
shows you the code.
Oh,
That's
I
cool.
want that deck list so much, by the way. I want to try it so much. That seems so funny. That's Deep Jana with like one hex split. That sounds interesting.
Does it?
I don't know. I want to try it.
I do like that the play again. Oh, you can change your deck weight. This is actually so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
What the
Yeah,
hell?
It's gonna be
It's
like
sweet.
not. That's what we should be getting. I don't know if it's not gonna be now, but there's like Champion Master when you press the skip button, and apparently, the writer that's on Twitter should be like that we're gonna skip even the Champion Master. So they're making like
Yeah.
as less clicks so you can lose again. That's like amazing change for us.
Nice.
I can
No,
make
it's actually really
terrible
cool.
choices with my bedtime even faster now.
It's saving time. It's saving time though. Like I like this. It's good things.
Yeah, but like all across the board, this is great, except if you really hate net decking, because there's gonna be a lot more of that.
Yeah, my net decking's good.
Yes.
And Brawler button is also cool. Like I remember when I'm on like America's making some tournament deck, and I'm like clicking one by one the cards. It's like gonna save some time. So
Mhm.
why not, right? Like it's a cool thing.
File a bunch of bug
And Momentous
fixes.
bug fixed.
Momentous is by far the biggest one. Condense would not trigger spell shield is a thing that exists.
And
Valley
the
of
wild cards and wild.
Valley of Imitation had a bug that was particularly relevant, and something with
wild
the
cards.
Stormcaller Ursine that got buffed and bug fixed.
And
for,
momentous
like-
choice.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Fog.
Yeah. But I also something that was a big theme. I know there was the wild cards that they were not given by Weak Revolt, and it's getting fixed. So it's like the game is once again more helpful for new players.
Yep.
All right, on to other stuff. These are just pictures of that. That was a patch that I was talking about earlier. Calendar.
We have the interesting thing that we have considered about Scraptraption on 28. Interesting thing to mention though, if you go on next side, we have on 18 we have Eternal Open. Week after that we have Standard Last Chance Qualifier. So we're changing format week to week. What do you think about that, guys?
They want the last chance qualifier to be standard, so it has this weird cadence. It's fine.
Okay,
Just,
so wait.
be
The
qualified.
interesting thing will be the amount of people who like aren't in contention for making it to Worlds off of Worlds points, and they look at the Eternal Open and they're like, I'm not gonna play in this because I don't
They're
need
gonna
to, right?
they're
Or
gonna
there's no
play.
shot for me to make it.
They're gonna just not prepare, right? I guess.
Yeah. So I do think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. The turnaround
It's
time is
strange
gonna
for
be
me,
fun.
though.
But like
It's strange.
a week of turnaround time is like probably gonna be fine, right? Especially since we assume that like the last patch probably isn't gonna change much. So it's gonna be like the meta we're playing right now is the meta we're gonna be playing for that last chance qualifier, probably.
Yeah, I was like, and that's like usual. Like, let's be honest, like very often when you see meta 1 week before tournament, it's usually not the tournament meta, right? We saw it so many times in the past. Like, Jackson was nowhere to seen before this open that we just had. And he just became the most played deck in open. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. It is a little weird, but I'm not too concerned.
Yep. I think it'll be okay. I think it'll all be okay. I'm just really hoping to spike this fucking world qualifier. That way I don't have to worry about any of it.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
I
that
want
be
to
great?
win it. I don't know.
Winning it would be nice. I'll be honest with you. I'm happy with top 4. I think that would probably lock me. So I just need something. Give me something.
I don't think top 4 would. I guess it would kind of lock me, but it wouldn't like mathematical lock me. So not there.
Okay,
but
yeah. We have some bloodbait to talk about.
Bloodbait, huh?
Yeah, I did not find the super rancid one, but I did find this one.
Oh, did you want?
No, I felt like that was the correct one to have up. Anyways,
that
thread was wild. M-Tux was not the worst reply guy, so it was a good time.
M-Tux is one of the better ones. M-Tux was.
I guess you should explain what's going on.
Okay, so bloodbait. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, there's this big kind of question because if you played a lot of Spellslinger decks where you play a lot of Coral Creatures, Wiggly Burblefish, Father Furies, you've had this experience of having 2, 3, 4 bloodbaits in your hand and you just can't get the shit out of your hand. And it's really frustrating. And there's been situations where they took Solitary Monk out of the portal pool because it was a really bad feels bad. And people have occasionally requested, myself included, that bloodbait somehow be excluded from the pool. I think very few people want it just blacklisted like Sundisk used to be. It's mostly like, I want somehow this card is changed so that it isn't a one-cost Bilgewater spell. And I'm gonna say I will heavily support that, because the main problem with like bloodbait, and the reason that this doesn't come up with Jettison, and the reason why like a lot of people I think just like completely miss the point, is bloodbait isn't just the worst hit, it is actively bad for you to hit. Frequently, if you play a core creatures and you get a bloodbait, you would rather not have the bloodbait. Like, not even saying like you would have rather not played the core creatures. You would rather have the core creatures in play and it just not have generated a card. Because the
I
card is
think
worse than not having one.
I think it's frustrating when you put cards in your deck that say they'll do a thing, and then instead of doing the thing, they just give you a middle finger
Yeah.
and take up a hand space. I think that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the meme that's thrown around is like bloodbait to 0 mana, and like I mean fuck it, it's a buff to lurk, but like I couldn't care less. I'd be down for it.
Yeah.
Lurk doesn't play even bloodbait, right? That's the thing. Like bloodbait is lurk card, and no lurk deck plays it actually. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could also make it modal, where it's like front half is a 3-mana spell that makes a Snapjaw Swarm in hand, and you can play it for 1 mana and put it on top of your deck or something. I think there's ways of solving it if you decide you want to solve it. But like, very importantly, like, I do not push for Jettison to be removed from the pool, because if you're playing a Spellslinger deck, like a 1-mana burst spell with no text is like an acceptable low roll.
it's
Presumably,
very
you want to
often
play
even better
spells.
than a lot of things. Like when I was
Yeah.
playing Nami, I was very often like happy that I got Jettison because it wasn't, I don't know, Parley. Because Parley is slow speed spell, and I wanted to have burst speed so I can kill my opponent with Nami, or something
Yeah.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jettison's like a fine hit, right? Jettison is literally a card without text, except it actually actively helps your opponent because it tells them cards that aren't in your hand. But like it's a card without text and it's a fine low roll. I think the frustrating part about this was just the arguments that everyone was wheeling out. I like hitting bloodbait, it's whatever at the end of the day. But the arguments where it's like, I think that every single Spellslinger deck should have a 1 in 15 chance of getting a middle finger every single time that it plays their card. And it's like I don't think you genuinely believe that. Or people who are saying bloodbait's actually advantageous. Did you know that? It's like, oh, okay, well, we're just not in real life right now. Okay.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
definitely don't think that we should be having the secret dose because we already cancelled with this with the monk. We can't that it's in, we changed the text. We have even the Sandisk in pool of landmarks now, so I think that's
Yeah.
like not a thing. But
Yeah,
it's
of
kind of
course,
stupid
of
to have.
course. I don't think anybody's saying that we should like have a secret list of like cards that can't get hit, right?
Mhm.
I
yeah,
don't think anybody's supporting that. Even if wording on a poll might indicate that.
yeah. I mean, I do think like Bloodbait, if Bloodbait was the same card and it was just in Shurima, it's fine because you kind of like opt into playing Shurima in your Bilgewater Spellslinger deck. But the fact that like Bloodbait is in the region with Bilgewater Spellslinger, and you're like, I can't avoid this. And
Yeah.
people making the claim of like, oh, play like discard. The problem is like PNZ, I think Bloodbait is fine if you're playing PNZ and Bloodbait's in your pool. Because you can play Rummage. Most decks that are playing core creatures are interested in playing Rummage or whatever. But like Noxus, I mean, I'm not gonna put like Grave Physician in my deck in the 1 in 15 chance I hit Bloodbait and have a card I want to discard instead of just cast for minimal value. And like there are no reasonable discard outlets in Bilgewater. If you put a bunch of reasonable discard outlets in Bilgewater, I think that's also a solution. But this current situation where like sometimes core creatures gives you just like a literal brick, like an actual like red building brick. It's just like, here, this is yours now, and you're like, what do I do with this? I can't even
Yeah.
put it anywhere.
Yeah, Bloodbait certainly is, a card. Yeah. I think that my main issue with it was just that it felt like a lot of the arguments came from people just hating elusives and hating Spellslinger decks. And they're like, yeah, well, fuck them,
Yeah.
They can eat an L, we don't care about anything else, just give them the L. And it's like, oh, that kind of sucks.
I definitely think that there was a lot of very frustrating takes of people being like, I don't like these decks, so I want them to suffer. And it's like, okay, you're like being the shitty ass control players who are like, when you sit there and you're like, okay, so like maybe control should try and win the game because like sitting there for 15 minutes while your opponent just like stumbles through killing you like isn't particularly fun. And they're like, no, the point is watching my opponent suffer. It's like, oh, you're just an asshole. Like that's what
The
this
issue with
is.
bloodbait is you don't even get to watch your opponent suffer because you just don't know what they hit in their hand because they're just never gonna fucking play it. I mean, I think honestly, if we just accept, bloodbait, you should have the 1 in 15 chance of getting fucked. I think there should be a mobile husk. I think that you should have a
Sure.
1 in 11 shot of hitting in a mobile husk, and your next card is useless.
Yeah, there was a take. I don't remember who it came from, but it was particularly funny to me where someone was like, well, like getting like multiple bloodbaits is pretty unlikely, but like solitary monk just like happens too often. I was like, I'm pretty sure like 2 or 3 bloodbaits is like about the same odds as hitting solitary monk. Not sure, and I like went and looked, and it's like, I mean, they're not like exactly the same odds. 3 bloodbaits is a little less likely, but like they're ballpark similar. It's like,
Yeah, like Riot has shown like an interest in curbing some of these like really shitty RNG moments, like Solitary Monk not being in the pool forever. And then they literally went in and reworked Solitary Monk so that it could be in the pool and it wouldn't fuck you.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think that there's case law, here that shows that in the past they've been willing to do it. So maybe at some point, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, I do think Sharesies. I made a tweet somewhere else about Sharesies as well. I think Sharesies in the Seraphine pool is similarly cruel because like the card's just uncastable most of the time. But,
Yeah,
like,
if you're not rummaging it, like it is very frustrating to hit literally Sharesies. There's a couple. There's like a Targon buff one or something that you have to have a Celestial in play to play.
Starbone thing.
Dogo Starbone.
I believe you
It
can
might
cast
be
that without a
something like that.
Celestial, but it doesn't do much. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very telling to me when there's like an RNG pool and you ask people like what the worst hit. Where like I wanted to ask Marshall like what's the worst hit from Robin because you played Daybreak. And it's like probably Zenith Blade, but I bet he'd think about it and be like, not sure.
And
If
Zenith
you ask,
Blade's like good.
yeah, if you ask every Seraphine player what's the worst hit in Standard, they will answer immediately Sharesies because you have had that happen 4, 5 times, and you're like, that one that I can't do anything with. And you ask anyone who played a bunch of Burblefish, and it's like bloodbait, not close.
I've hit fucking Sharesies twice in one game before. It's because you can't play it, so it doesn't get out of the new pool. It's so crazy.
It's very telling when there's an RNG pool and you ask everybody who engages with it, and they all answer instantly the same one. And it's like, that one is much worse than anything else.
Just play Castaway now, too. I just play Castaway.
Yeah, that's so true. Hey, it was kind of nice, when I was running Castaway in the Surfing IO deck, and I did hit Sharesies, and I was like, this card's active for once? Holy. Yeah. Funny shit.
All right. Well, the only other thing that we have is Baya's thoughts on where the meta is going to end up.
Okay, deep might be too high. Deep might be too high. I get it. I get you. Even though I don't think deep. I think it's like tournament wise, but this is like my prediction, kind of. Of course, I guess it's the cats are obvious. Like if you think gain that it's with Atox, by the way, I think it's like Atox win, Atox gain.
Honestly, I think the biggest mistake, in my opinion, is that I'm pretty sure Pyke is just fine. I mean, Lurk's still bad. Don't play it, but like, it's just here.
I just
don't
want people to play Lurk, so I just played them. Yeah, I think
sure. I can agree
with that. Are you
with
abusing your position as an influencer to try and bait people into not playing their favorite deck?
Exactly. What's your take? What do you think of the list? Would you do something weird, different, or like do? I guess I don't agree with the Warden. I would assume most likely.
I think Warden probably will be at least 1 tier up. Will it be higher than that? Hard to say. I think it's at least tier 2. But yeah, I mean, I think it looks about right. We see the perennial people coming in. Jax, Varus, Alawi, Aatrox. I like Aatrox. But like, bro, it's
I don't mind these decks. That's my thing. Like, I don't mind if this is the meta that we're gonna have. I'm not gonna mind it. But like, my thing is like, we knew that like people really minded when we had the old decks. 3 months ago in the last Worlds qualifying Open. And I'm telling you, we're gonna have it again because like that's my like kind of issue with the page that we don't have that many exciting buffs, and I don't really see anything new coming up.
Oh, you know what is probably going to be on here? Okay, it might be Cope. It might be Cope. I think there's going to be Seraphine. I think Seraphine comes back.
Psycho Temple? I can see Temple.
Yeah, it's probably going to be like a Temple deck. Whether it's Ionia or Noxus, or not Noxus. Fuck no, not Noxus. Ionia or Shadow Isles. I think there will probably be like at least a tier 2 Seraphine deck.
I can see that.
But yeah.
Maybe. I mean,
I think that this seems like reasonable.
Yeah, Seraphine definitely has hope. I mean, my main like question about upcoming metas is like, where is aggro gonna come from? And the answer might be nowhere, because aggro's not been having a good time lately. But
Aggro's been another thing that's been band-aided by Samira.
yeah,
And like, let's be honest, Samira aggro in standard hasn't been good since Samira Jinx, like, fucking 4 months ago. Like,
I mean,
aggro just doesn't exist in standard. Aggro just is not a thing in standard.
Jinx is still really messed up, but that is all
this was the
aggro has
bundle,
going for it. Yeah.
BaJAtak is so much worse. Like I think like if we count Icojix as an aggro, I think it's like aggro combo, it's combo mid range, I would say most likely.
Yeah, but then aren't we calling like Janna an aggro deck? Like,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. And I bet you there are people who call Janna an aggro deck. I guarantee you there are.
I saw a Reddit post saying exactly that recently.
Yeah, isn't Jax an aggro card? I see him flipped on fucking, turn 5 every game with 10 pack. I'm pretty sure he's an aggro card.
Bro, man, I hate so much Jax, man, because now not only you have the Wander, but you also have the Omen Hawk, so you play 6 Wanders that make your Jax, 4-3, and like it's so painful to play into 4-3 Jax, man.
They were on 6-1 drops last patch and it got buffed. It's so crazy. Why did Sky Splitter get I just hope that people bring the same fucking energy to all these other decks. That's all that I want at the end of the day. I want everyone to bring the same fucking energy to these fucking decks.
I'm down.
Because God, they do not make more interesting games than Heimer Jace did. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be something, huh? It's certainly gonna be something.
I don't know. My opinion on the patch and the upcoming meta is I don't think it's gonna be like the best thing in the world, but I definitely think we made a step in a direction that I'm happy with. And like we got a lot of problems to work through. I don't think stuff is really gonna get solved until at least past another rotation. So like I'm happy with progress. Even if it's not finished.
Do you think that Janna's allowed to be tier 1? When if you look at it, there's 6 decks in tier 1, tier 2. She loses to 4 of them, to 4 of the other 5 decks.
I think there'll be still games.
I think Janna Nyla could pretty easily get kicked out. I think Janna can find different stuff to be doing.
Janna will find something. I don't know if it'll be tier 1. When you lose to literally everything in the meta, it's hard for me to like be like, yes, this is the tier 1. It's like, is the meta forming around this deck likely? Yeah, probably, but they're also just playing strong decks that happen to beat you. Yeah, I don't know.
I think my thing is that like why I have like Janna in tier 1 here is because I think the second the counters to Janna gonna go, I think the tier 2 especially gonna come up, and then Janna gonna get back because the tier 2 Janna beat, right? And that's like then we could have kind of like rock paper scissors kind of again, I would say.
Maybe that's right.
That's something that I'm just thinking about. But like why I'm kind of dreaming about the patch, I maybe didn't say exactly the thing is it's the lack of exciting buffs. That's something that I was mentioning. I think it's the lazy nerfing and like over nerfing, the Wildfire over nerfing this summer and stuff. That's something I'm just not that fan of. I hate killing cards. I think, yeah, I just don't like if cards just get unprinted, and that's something that I just might.
I think a lot of interesting buffs. I just don't know if the buffs like excite me. I see the list of buffs. I'm like, there's a lot of Sunny buffs in this. There's a lot.
But they're not gonna matter,
good.
right?
The Sunny YouTube channel has a lot of content coming in.
Yeah, but you've seen it, and you know it's not gonna matter. Like that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's exciting for if you want to play memes. Your memes gonna be better, but they're still gonna be memes, right? Like that's the thing.
I get the complaint about like cards not getting like unprinted, but like I feel like that happens a lot. Where like, I don't know, the one that I point to is like, I'm still pissed that Nami didn't get rotated. It's like, which is like, I don't know. I hear so many people complaining on like Twitter when they're like, oh my god, they rotated like Soraka. I loved Soraka. Why did they rotate my favorite card? And it's like, you don't know pain until a champion you liked didn't get rotated. You're like, oh, that shit's rotting for a year.
In the moment that Nami had a chance, had even a glimmer of hope, she was a one of in these Fizz Samira decks.
And they should have
And then
just played
Samira
3
gets
Fizz, 3 Samira.
gutted. And now it's like, okay, well, never mind. Actually, there's no hope. There's no hope.
But I just realized that tracker is rotated, by the way. Like, I
Really?
didn't know.
Tell me you haven't been on Reddit without telling me you haven't been on Reddit. Reddit's out there every day. Starspring, bro. Where's my Tom Kench? Where's my Soraka?
I thought that only Tom Kench got it. Okay, now okay. I was like having in mind that the tracker is still in the game. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay, here's an issue that I have with this patch. The nerf that I wanted to see to Janna was Divine Whirlwind dealing less damage to face, like dealing like 1 damage. I think we're hitting like a critical mass. I think we started to with like blowback, and now we've definitely hit it. Where like there's just an insane amount of burn in PNC, especially once we start going to like Eternal. I think there's gonna be like some crazy fun. I've been playing some Eternal because I wanted to have a little bit of fun. I was playing like some Janna Neela, or not Janna Neela, TF Neela. And there's this weird thing where like Get Excited is a crazy fucking card, and like there's an insane amount of burn. I was consistently just fucking burning people out from like 15. Yeah, I think that because we didn't hit other things in the Janna package like Divine Whirlwind, we're gonna get a point where like, you know, in a month, you know, like after the Eternal season, Janna's gonna get fucking gutted because there's just too much burn in the game. And I'm concerned with that just because, you know, we kicked the can down the road, and I feel like we're gonna get a harsher nerf in the future.
Yeah, I definitely wish they more aggressively stepped in and did like, I mean, people call them band-aid changes, but like I really wish we did that. Where it's like I remember talking about this way back in like broken Seraphine, broken Vayne meta, where like Seraphine was flipping on 6, Vayne was a 3/4, and those 2 champions were head and shoulders above everything else. Nothing competed with the 2 of them. And I remember just being like, okay, it's 2 weeks later, we have a patch notes. Like, these champions are clearly just like wildly out of line. Just drop a point of health from both of them and say, like, hey, we'll revisit this with a change that we're happy with, but we just need to relieve some pressure on the metagame right now. And it's like, even if you revert it and do a different change where you say, like, send Seraphine to 9, which has turned out to be a reasonable change for Seraphine, like, I think people would be very happy to just see fast action where it's like, look, this is a band-aid. We might revisit it. We might change it, but like
We did it with Momentous,
something
right?
needs to happen now. Yeah, Momentous
We did it with
did
Momentous.
that. And I think like stuff like Janna, you can sit here and say like, okay, Janna's like overperforming. Let's do like some like simple, quick changes that we don't think are going to be enough, but like let's do some. And then we're not going to like piss people off. Because
There might be like hotfix though. Like we still don't know. Like there might be hotfix like 3 days into the patch. They're gonna be like, oh, I guess Janna might be too good.
Ain't no way, bro. There's so many counters. There's so many counters to Janna. She spent the entire last meta getting countered, and then she's gonna spend this meta getting countered. Yeah, bro, come on, give her something.
I can see that then.
Let her exist.
But yeah, I just wish they acted faster, even if it was like, we know this is a stopgap measure. I really liked what happened with Momentous, where it was just like, something needs to be done. We know this isn't a great change, but we're doing something.
They did it with
now.
Atro.
Yeah. I mean, Atro, I think, was a little more planned, but
it's crazy that they unprinted Atro for a patch, just rotated a month later.
Yeah.
I will agree that was strange, because it's like, when they gave the change, even the fact that they didn't say anything, where it's like, if they just said like, hey guys, we know we're like deleting this card, we're gonna revert and rotate it in a bit, just like, we don't want to deal with Atro for this like
it's
patch.
gonna be on like, you know, the fucking LOR iceberg in like, you know, 3 years. There's gonna be like slow speed atrocity. And it's like, what the fuck? Wait, what's that? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm reasonably okay with the patch, but I don't think it's like, I don't think they knocked it out of the park, but I just think it's like progression in a direction that I'm happy seeing, and like I knew one patch wasn't going to solve all the problems that there are. So.
Yeah, Jack's Horn is still in the game, so unfortunately not solved. Unlucky.
Yeah, we need to make actually fucking propaganda on Reddit.
Do you guys think that
trying to-
Jack's Hash was telling me that he loves Jack's Horn because he feels that it's like he gets to make so many decisions? Do you feel like they're actually decisions, or is it just I feel good when I cycle my weapons and that makes me feel like I'm doing something smart?
I am convinced that Hash is hooked up to like an IV bag of adrenaline that gives him an injection every time he sees 2 improvised weaponry show up on screen. Because that man will just like salivate at anything that says improvise.
Have you noticed how much the RPG guys, and I
Well,
swear, like every
fucking
RPG
love
guy,
Weaponmasters.
they came out in full force when I, had like my patch wish list or whatever. Or anytime that people talk about like nerfing Freljord or nerfing Weaponmasters, every single RPG member comes out. I think they like abusing this shit. I think they really like abusing this
Trust
shit.
man, they can only play ATUGs, bro. Like they can historically play ATUGs and Jackson. That's all they can play, right? And they all
to their credit, I do think the RPG members all are big fans of these kind of like weapon decks that we've seen, particularly Aatrox Vein, and a lot of the like various Weapon Master decks with like chunky-ish mid-range with some ongoing value. So they really enjoy that playstyle, and Weapon Masters are like absolutely propping that concept up and have been for a long time. I mean, they're tailor-made for those decks. They're like legitimately perfect cards for those decks of like chunky mid-range units that are trying to beat down and give you value for a longer game plan. But yeah, RPG is like, I don't know. They could like rename themselves, rebrand themselves, saying like Orn something.
Okay, I have an idea. To make sure that RPG don't win words, what about nerfing our Weapon Masters? What about that, guys? You know, like
if they went across the board and like fucking hit every single weapon, I think that would be. Wait a second. Most of the RPG members are in Americas. You just don't want an America's world champion.
Of course,
I'll have
bro.
to think about this.
But you're gonna win then, I get it, right? Smile.
True, so true. Yes.
I wouldn't.
If I could play Janna and Seraphine and some other PNZ deck at Worlds, I'll win. Hands down.
I wouldn't have mind doing something a little more complicated where you make like the improvised weaponries or like all Weapon Masters get the text while I'm equipped, I have +1/+0. And all of the improvised weapons lose a point of power.
Ooh.
So there's literally no change to the Weapon Masters when you play them the first time, but like the weapon they give you when they die is like distinctly worse.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I think that's cute. I think it's cute. It is frustrating. I think Jack Soren's one of the most frustrating decks to play against when like, you kill like their fucking 8/6 and then suddenly their 1/2 becomes like a 5/6. And it's like, what the fuck just there's endless value here.
Yeah.
They have like they want to and they're like, haha, haha, and then they equip and they're like, oh.
It is funny when you ruinate them, and they end up with, they have 7 cards in hand and 6 of them are weapons, and it's that's nice to look at. No.
All right. Well, we've been live for like 2 hours and we've gotten through our content. So I think we should wrap it up.
Okay. Fair enough.
I make Baya's job slightly easy, although he's still like up at 3 a.m. and we're just gonna make him do everything. So
yeah. Hell yeah. Anything else?
I'm good. You good, Baya?
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and
smash that bell.
Something
the other ones
RSS feed. I don't know what the podcast thing is. I don't want.
I'll send it to you by certified mail if you'd like. I'll just like get a transcript and just mail it to you.
On RSS feed. We are now on Apple Podcast if you want. We are on Spotify. We are on my YouTube. And go follow these guys on Twitter. See ya. Goodbye.
All right.